lose the hoodie, I think. Hope everybody's doing all right. Okay. Give it a minute or two. Get my tools sorted.
Hey, Jason.
You're still alive. How you feeling, buddy?
Maureen.
Hey, Mo.
Jason said he is still alive.
You're getting there, buddy. Getting closer all the time. When's the concrete pour? Can't remember. You said it like 4 times last night. I forgot. Oh, hopefully it all goes swimmingly. You think you'll be ready by then?
7 days. No. Really? Yeah. Dang. I said hi to Jason.
All right. So this is the 10th episode, which I'm kind of shocked I got to be honest. I wasn't sure if I was going to stick with this thing. So in honor of it being the 10th episode, what I'm going to do is, instead of my normal sketch it, erase it, and sketch it darker, I'm going to sketch it a little bit more detailed than I normally would, and then I'm going to ink it. So it will take a bit longer of a stream, but you'll get to see how I get the inks on these things, which also means I'm going to be using a different type of paper. The sketch paper I use is very thirsty when it comes to ink, and it will bleed out quite a bit from the lines I make.
So Jason said, if we're not ready, we're getting it anyway. And then he said, happy 10. And Mo said, cool.
All right. So with 43% of the vote, as of 8 o'clock, Chewbacca wins. So we're going to see if we can't do right by Chewie this evening. You think I should zoom in a little bit?
Wouldn't hurt.
Let's try it. Hang on. There, maybe that'll work. Stand by. Okay. All right. That's a good. I have some. Jason might recognize my reference book for the evening. Classic Star Wars, the role-playing game. Back in the day, has all kinds of great pictures you can use for reference. So I'll find a good Chewbacca image and we'll go from there. No, there we go. That's perfect.
Jason says, haha, awesome.
So,
Max says Star Wars. Welcome, Max.
Hey, Max.
Max, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but welcome.
Max C. And also, where I'm going to ink this one, I think I'll probably do more of a bust than a full figure scenario, but that's all right. It'll make it so we're not here all night. of the interwebs.
Jason said he is fine with you being here all night.
I'm sure he is. You can pull a Jason Chase and just zonk out right at the computer.
Jet Harper says, yo, what up? And Julie Ann Stevens says, what are you making?
Hey, welcome to the stream, guys. Tonight I'm going to draw sort of a bust, head and shoulders of Chewbacca from Star Wars. And if you haven't watched the stream before, what I do is I'll do the sketch. Tonight we're going to do it a little bit different where I'm going to ink it afterwards. And then we do a random drawing at the end, and whoever wins gets the sketch. Usually what I do is roll a die of some kind and have people guess the number that I rolled. This is where having reading glasses is messing me up a little bit to look over at my reference photo and back to what I'm drawing. Old man complaints. Jason knows what I'm talking about.
Mo says no old pot. And Jason says, LOL, you're only as old as you feel.
So how old are you right now, Jason?
Pretty darn old. So is Chewie your favorite character from Star Wars?
No, mine is Luke Skywalker. I'm always, ever since I was a little kid. Although I am with the Star Wars fans that think Chewie got slighted at the end of Star Wars without getting a medal. Like Han and Luke get a medal. What the hell? Chewie's just hanging out.
Mo says, ooh, already loving the eyes.
Thanks, Mom. This will be a tricky one to ink, I think. That's good. I actually really like inking hair. There's just something sort of, I don't know, therapeutic about it. once you get in a groove.
Jason has a question.
Okay.
When you know you are going to be inking a sketch, do you do anything different? Good question.
That is a good question. Yes and no. So if I was going to do this for a comic book, I would definitely get it tighter than I'm probably going to get it tonight as far as the line work and where each line is going to be and that sort of thing. I'm still going to do a lot of drawing, so to speak, in the inks, but with a sketch like this, even with the inks, it's still going to be a sketch at the end of it. It's not going to be something I would put in a finished product, so to speak. So this time I probably won't do much different, but I am concerned with Chewie's, like, the composition for him in this case is going to be primarily where the hair falls. And I always have a fear with, like, something like this where it just doesn't quite capture the character. So I'm gonna have to be real diligent about my line work when it comes to the inks. So that it doesn't, like right now I can be all over the place, but when I pick my lines later on here, I'm gonna be a little more methodical. So a little bit different when I'm doing finished work, but probably not super different in this case. The one difference will be tonight, like you guys normally see me do this kind of sketch and then erase it all, and then come in with a darker lead and fine tune it. We're gonna skip that process tonight. So actually the erasing would be after the inks are done. And I've got to be careful on that too, that I don't try to do it so early that the ink smudge.
Jason says, interesting.
And there's like what I'm doing right now, filling in the black part of his mouth. There's actually, because with Bristol board, this isn't Bristol, this is like a mixed media kind of paper. But with comic book boards that you draw on, a lot of times if you have too much pencil on the board, you go to ink it and it can slide around a little bit. So oftentimes what people will do when there's a large section, let's say, I want this to be black, they'll just say, put an X here. So that way you get everything inked in and then come back with a brush and ink it instead of me sitting here coloring this in and then having to put ink over it. If that makes sense.
Jason says it does make sense.
Even a busted clock is right twice a day. Sorry, my hand covering up stuff, but. All right, I think I'm getting close here to where I might start doing some inks. apologize ahead of time if my head gets in frame a little bit. I'll try to avoid it, but sometimes I lean in a little bit closer when I'm inking. It's a little bit more of an exacting process, so sometimes getting closer makes me feel like I have a little bit more control, even if it doesn't really matter. Ammo boxes. Not the focal point, so we're not going to go too crazy on details here. I think I mentioned in past streams, it's a visual trick for illustrators to get you to look at what they want you to look at, is to have higher contrast, higher detail, saying, look here, and then just let things kind of fade out a little bit.
Jason suggests that you just put a Chewie mask on the back of your head and
Yeah, that would be kind of creepy, but it'll probably be less creepy than just the back of my head. All right, I feel like that nose is a little off. All right. So to ink this one, I'm going to use a couple of different tools. I like micron pens for fine lines and such. If I was going to do this, like I said, on a comic board, I would use a brush like this. Gives you a really fine tip. And I would use a pot of ink, but that's a whole process, a big production. So what I'm going to use tonight for brush work is one of these Copic brush pens. You should get it on Amazon and whatnot. They're pretty good. They have a cartridge in here that's filled with ink, and the brush tip itself is nylon, but it works. Let me see here. Here's another piece of paper. Works just like a brush, so you can see it kind of if I push on it. It's got bristles, but they're, instead of horsehair, they're nylon. Hopefully I won't cover up every single stroke with my hand. Before I went to college, the idea of inking something with a brush would never have occurred to me. Ink comes out of pens, basically, was the thought process. And then we had a class where we were required to ink with brushes, and to teach us, they had us draw on ink on tissue paper over somebody else's drawing, like a photocopy. And within 30 seconds, I think, I was like, oh, I'm never going back. It just, something about being able to do a lot with the same tool instead of having to switch tools a lot really spoke to me. And then there, of course, there's this organic weight to the line that I just can't seem to get without repeatedly going over and over the same line with a pen. Another thing that you'll see me do repeatedly while I'm inking that I don't do as much when I'm drawing is like turn the drawing around and things like that, and that's just to give me more control over the stroke, because a lot of times you're doing thin to thick or thick to thin, and depending on what you prefer, it's often easier to go one way versus the other. So to play to your strengths, you just move the paper.
Jason said, for something like Chewie with so much hair, how are you choosing what to ink and what to leave?
So I'm kind of winging it. So with this, other than say things like the lines for his eyes and his teeth and stuff like that, if I try to think too much about which line I'm gonna hit and all that kind of stuff, it'll start looking stiff and I'll get stressed out about it, to be honest. If I just let the brush do a bunch of the work, as long as I'm in the right area, going in the right direction, I should be all right. I mean, famous last words, but I really would like overthink it if I tried to get too in the weeds with the hair as far as which lines are correct.
So natural talent then, gotcha.
It's just experience. Sometimes it's hard to realize or let go sometimes, and the fact of the matter is, like, with a tool like a brush, a lot of tools that artists use, it's a collaboration. So if you get too hung up on making the tool do exactly, like if I was to, like I used to, I'd draw a sketch and then I'd use a light box, copy it over onto a better piece of paper, make sure every line is perfect, and then come in here and try super hard to just nail that same line and get frustrated when I didn't. It's
Mo
bad
says
news.
it sounds very zen.
Yeah, it's kind of zen. You're right. And again, apologies if I get too far out of frame. Might take me a minute to correct because there's quite a bit of a delay for what I see versus what I'm doing. some of the people that are amazing inkers out there. There was a guy I think I've talked about before that did a lot of the Star Wars newspaper strips back when the movies were in theaters and such. And Al Williamson, he did a ton of stuff back in the day, Buck Rogers and whatnot, but he always had super clean inks that make me jealous. Kevin Nolan is a pretty famous one in comic book circles. Alan Davis. Frank Frazetta, obviously. People know him for his paintings, but his ink illustrations were insane. Same with one of his heroes, Hal Foster. Was the guy who did the Prince Valiant comics for the longest time. That's the giant book I have. Yeah, I know you know.
Jason said it's crazy how the brush strokes just look like hair.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like at a certain point I realized if I just let go a little bit on what I'm doing, it tends to work out better than if I'm really trying hard. So like Mo said, there's kind of a Zen component to it. Let's see here.
Jason said the spice must flow.
Sometimes if I get apologies if I'm too quiet, there's a little bit of a almost like a you got to hold your tongue the right way kind of feeling when I'm doing this. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those drawings where it feels to me like it comes together towards the end. I'm throwing a lot of lines on here, but I do think they're going to add up to something here.
Mo says no worries, Jeff, and Jason said I'm holding my breath watching. LOL.
Sometimes, this is like an old Bob Rossism, but sometimes having a little bit of a shake to your hand like I do isn't so bad in a situation like this, especially if it's something that's supposed to be alive, organic. rest my hand for a minute.
It's amazing how much more it comes alive with the ink than just the pencil.
Yeah, there's some sort of magic there for sure. And sometimes it's the opposite. Like sometimes I'll see more energy in the pencils, and then I can't quite get it in the inks. But for the most part, I really love doing the inking, and I really love how it looks after it's done. It always amazed me looking at some of these old masters, like what they could do just with a brush and some black ink on white paper. It's crazy.
If you had to choose one, sketching or inking, which would you pick?
I'm not sure. It would come down to mood, to be honest.
Because it's got to be different inking somebody else's work versus inking your own.
For sure, yeah. Inking somebody else's work can be a little harrowing. For me, anyway. I don't do it a lot, so that's part of it. But
is it that you're afraid you won't do it justice?
yes, yeah. Or it's even like, so my buddy Paul that draws comics, he doesn't ink any of his own stuff, so he's always at the mercy of whoever the inker is. And just like any job, like sometimes you get behind and you have to phone something in, and he's really sensitive to that because of the amount of work ethic he has. Like he's a machine and just will chain himself to the table and get it done. That's why they often use him to finish projects that quote unquote superstars can't hit the deadline on. But that also means that like somebody might phone in the inks, and then it's kind of on him as well. And the audience, a lot of times the readers don't understand that, oh, this is screwed up in the inks. They just go, it looks like crap. And this guy who drew this, Paul Pelletier,
Jason said it shows that you love what you're doing.
thanks, man. Yeah, when I'm sometimes needing to relax, I think, Jason, the analogy would be like sometimes you're just in the zone when you're painting miniatures. It's kind of similar. I'm sure everybody has certain activities, and Alicia next to me right now is knitting. And I'm sure it's the same kind of thing where it's like relaxing, but also like you gotta kind of be present. I think that's what part of it is it's harder to have your mind wandering, stressing about a bunch of different stuff if you gotta kind of be a little meticulous about what you're doing. So because Chewie's nose is a different texture than his hair, I don't want to use the exact same strokes. Otherwise, everything starts to look like it's made out of the same material. And that's another thing that a good inker will do for a penciler who maybe got in a deadline jam or something like that. They can really dress up some lines to convey more information that might have been there in the pencils. Danny Meeke and Sandra Hope are also a couple of people that are just amazing at inking. Like the idea of the hair around Chewie's eyes, like, I don't know, Chewie seems like he has kind eyes to me. So I don't want to make it too, like, angry looking, so to speak. You'll see me going back to places that I've left some space and then filling it in. And that's part of the thought process too, is the whole, when in doubt, black it out. So sometimes I'll get to a point and I'll say, I don't need that to be there, so I'm gonna just fill it in.
Jason said he looks at you with his kind eyes as he rips your arms off.
Well, I mean, sometimes people need to learn.
You don't need these. Tosses arms over shoulder.
Makes me think of the slight digression, but Fist of the North Star, where the guy has the sort of laser beam chi technique, and this one guy rushes at him, he rushes at the guy, and they end up on opposite ends of the battlefield, and then he's like, "Hey, these belong to you," throws the guy his own arms. Guy looks
Did he
down.
catch him?
Yeah, no, he didn't have arms to catch with, so he just kind of looked down, was like, "Oh," and then it almost as if because he noticed that he just had bloody stumps, they start spewing titanic amounts of blood at high pressure, like most anime.
What you don't know is you're already dead.
It's like a thing in movies sometimes, like horror movies and stuff. I remember in Jaws: The Revenge, which is a horror movie on many levels. At the beginning, like Sheriff Brody's son there gets killed, and part of it is he's like reaching over the side of the boat or something like that, and the shark breaches up and attacks him, and he kind of falls back away and is shocked, and then he goes to like stand up and grab the railing to stand up, and he's got no arm. It's like he just kind of didn't notice he didn't have an arm. Just the shock. But that kind of stuff, weirdly, makes me laugh.
Johan asks, is this a self-portrait?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd kill for that hair, honestly. I will say the only issue with these brushes is if you want to do a large space, sometimes it takes a while for the ink to catch up with you, so it'll dry out a little bit. Oh well. Shake out the hand a little bit. Where this is a pretty self-contained sketch, I like to jump around like this, but if it was a page of narrative art or something, I would try to start in the upper left and move across the page diagonally to the lower right, just to not smudge the ink if I start down here. But like I said, a smaller sketch like this, not that big a deal. So it lets me jump around if I get bored with a certain spot, or I need to let it sit in my noodle for a bit so I figure out what I'm going to do later.
Ouch. Johan says, can't be a self-portrait, too much hair.
Yep, that's for sure.
Jason says, give him a week, he can do it.
I don't think I'm going to grow any more hair in a week, though, Jason. So I'm using this reference photo from Return of the Jedi, and I want to, while I'm not trying to be too much of a slave to it, I'm going to use kind of the lighting that's implied there. So it's like sunlight hitting Chewie from the top and behind. So
Is that your battery or something?
I don't know. I got it plugged in, so it shouldn't be. Just plug right back. Not sure. Usually I remember to turn off the volume on my phone, but I forgot to tonight. So you guys will have to let me know, as they say in the comments or whatnot, that if you want to see more things like this in the future, or you want me to try to do some color work. Open to trying a couple of things. Just want to know what you guys want to see. I've been slowly petering away at trying to teach myself some coloring with like alcohol-based markers, but it's mildly frustrating. I really like painting with acrylic paints, and so there's that. My instincts there don't serve me as well with the markers. So it's a bit of a mental shift I'm working on, but I could do either or. I could do a stream where I color a sketch with markers, or you could watch me work on part of a painting.
Jason said, now I want to see Fist of the North Star.
Yeah.
And Mo said, variety is fun. Would love to see some color work.
I don't know. To be honest, when I started off doing the stream, I was just afraid that I might not stick with it. So that's why I went with the very low pressure sketching, just like at a convention kind of thing. And I think that really helped. And it's allowed me to feel a little bit more comfortable with it. And then if people are enjoying watching it, I might as well do some more complicated stuff.
I feel like you have a pretty good routine down
Yeah.
for your weekly drawing.
I feel like I should have more to talk about. Often vast swaths of me just breathing.
Jason said you're talking with your hands.
Huh.
It's true.
Good point.
Mo said breathing would be great for a future Darth drawing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to save that for when I have a cold. Just be-
Jason said, honestly, I don't understand how you can talk while you draw.
Sometimes I can.
Do you find it a little distracting?
Yeah. It depends on what I'm doing, but there are certain things that if I'm if I'm ever in the middle of a thought and I lose it, it's because I need more brain power for my hands, I guess.
Yeah. So your inspiration photo, is it an ink drawing or is it like a color?
It's a photograph.
So like in color?
Yeah, it's a still from the movie.
Ah, gotcha.
Just so people can see, I guess. This is the reference shot. Hopefully that went in camera. I'll know in 5 minutes or so when it shows up on the screen.
That is quite a delay.
There we go.
You might want to realign the camera.
A little too off.
Yeah, you shift it a little bit. Jason said the shot moments before he doesn't get a medal.
Wrong movie, but sure. I'm nothing if not pedantic. Down in here a little bit. So the hair on his chest and whatnot, I'm not going to be as detailed with, again, because I want you to be looking here, not so much the rest of it. Yeah, that's part of the drawing, but that's not the focal point. can tell I'm moving back and forth. I start to get a smudge on my pinky.
How long does it take the ink to dry?
Probably 10, 15 minutes to kind of be dry enough to touch and whatnot, and then a little bit longer to erase or do any kind of color work with. You really probably ought to let it go for a day before you were gonna use markers or something like that.
I'm a hook lefty, so way back in the Jurassic era when we were using number 2 pencils in school, yeah, I would always have the pencil lead across the side of my hand.
Yeah, I would too. This whole side of my hand will be lead if I was doing a longer drawing. Same idea.
I think we broke Mo's no old talk rule.
Right. Well, I mean, I still use number 2 pencils. It's just HB lead. It's not. I say that like they're not all just using laptops. All right, never mind.
Saying, like, yeah, anyway.
Figure out how I want to handle this.
Mo says she'll let it pass.
Oh, that's good.
Like a hall pass, Mo.
Oh, geez. Now you're asking for it.
I think they still have hall passes. They're probably e-passes, but
Think so?
I don't have no idea.
So as I get away from the focal point, instead of worrying about lines so much, sometimes it's about shapes. Because again, it's getting a little abstract. Which is a good chance to practice different motions with the brush.
Mo said, this is looking so cool. Love the energy around the eyes.
Thanks.
I agree, Mo. I'm loving the texture on his chest too, with the, like, I know you said it was less detailed, but it actually is looking really, I don't know how to articulate what I'm
Furry?
it just is, you're selling it, I guess.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
There's this constant war between, at least in my head when I'm drawing, like detail and attempts at realism versus abstract stuff. And I love both of them. And I can't seem to make myself pick. And sometimes that's really frustrating. Like, there are certain artists that are just amazing at throwing shapes onto the page, and all of a sudden something leaps out at you and you're like, holy crap, you know, your brain fills in the slots, and then suddenly you've got this picture that you're super invested in. And then some people are just crazy with the detail, and they make stuff look almost photorealistic, and you're like, how do they, good God. So to me, sometimes I wish I could just pick which camp to hang out in. And I feel like sometimes my artwork is pretty inconsistent because I don't. But that's just how I am. So I'm just going to dress up some of these lines with Micron. Just to give a little bit more of a different value than just straight black and white. These finer lines will help create a gray. You know, assuming my pen doesn't want to run out like it is.
Mo says totally agree. I think with the "you're selling it" part, I think is what she was agreeing with. And Jason said it's not inconsistency if it's not inconsistency, it's your style.
Right.
And sage nod.
Right. There's a part of me that rebels against that. I remember in school, that was one of the first things you had to get drilled out of your head is, you know, when you're getting a critique, it's just my style, man, was not a valid response.
Mo said, I was thinking the same thing, Jason, and Jason says high five.
But you're right, it's just part of, you know, part of this expression is who I am. And I do think that I'm awful mercurial when it comes to things that I enjoy in the moment. Kind of switch between a lot of hobbies and stuff. And it's kind of comes out in the artwork, I think, sometimes. I'll be really inspired by somebody and be studying their techniques and trying to incorporate them, and then it'll be somebody else that's like on the opposite end of the spectrum. But another thing I have to remind myself is for everybody else looking at it, I might say, oh, I'm trying to go a little more cartoony, trying to look a little more Mike Mignola, whatever, and then turn around and say, well, I'm trying to be a little more Travis Charest or somebody who's really detailed, and for the most part, people say, I don't know, it just looks like your art.
Jason said, this is the way.
I'll have to do him on one of these streams at some point. I do like The Mandalorian quite a bit. I mean, he's no Luke Skywalker, but still. I think we're getting there. Of course, I always say that 20 minutes before I'm done.
All right, just hold on, because I'm about to ask a really dumb question.
Okay?
The thing, it's an ammo belt, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't he have a blaster?
Yeah, so it's an ammo bandolier of charge packs that you plug into a blaster.
Okay, I accept your logic, but how come nobody else has them?
Because in Star Wars, just like if we play the game, we don't worry about ammunition until it's dramatically appropriate for you to have run out of ammunition.
So only Wookiees need to charge their...
Well, it's like a lot of things. You know, Luke has a utility belt with like a bunch of crap on it he doesn't use in the movies. But it's just to say, this is like a place that's lived in and stuff gets used.
Well, it is a bitchin' costume because he's like this big furry guy with the big metal ammo belt. So
Right, and it also holds his man purse.
he has a man purse.
Yeah, Chewie, at the end of this bandolier, there's a big,
Is
like,
that-
burlap man purse, yeah.
Ah,
I like to think he keeps snacks in there.
of course he eats like jerky.
Yeah.
Yeah. He seems like a jerky kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Plus, I mean, he's got that Wookiee rage, so, like, sometimes you just need to eat a Snickers,
There's-
you know?
yeah. Good call.
All right.
Jason said, I don't know about everyone else watching, but he just came to life for me. Just wow.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, Jason, it's amazing how like realistic and alive it looks now. It's crazy, especially compared to this pencil sketch. I couldn't quite see it in the pencil sketch, but yeah, with the inky in it, it's a
Yeah.
completely different ballgame.
Well, good. That's what I was hoping for.
No, me being the expert who knows next to nothing about what you're doing.
Well, that's, I mean,
Is that what
You're-
makes me the expert?
yeah, everybody's an expert on
I'm
what
a
they
layperson,
see, you know? And, you know, an artist that Alicia knows that I watch on YouTube because she's probably annoyed whenever it comes on, but Frank Cho does these drawings on Wednesdays. And one of the things he says in almost every stream with regards to illustration, and this is true, I remember learning this in college with regards to perspective, and it's, if it looks wrong, it is wrong. So there are ways that you can mathematically depict the absolute correct perspective lines on a building, and it still just looks wonky. And so you can break the rules and it actually looks more correct. And there's a lot of stuff that happens with anatomy and composition and stuff like that that's like, this shouldn't work. Or the opposite, this is exactly how it's supposed to be, and people just look at it and go, something's wrong. You know, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, I know every now and then you look at a photograph and you're like, something just looks wrong about it, and like obviously it's the way it was in the moment,
Sure.
but it's not. You know what I mean? Like it's an awkward angle or something like that, and it just looks off.
Yep. Yes, indeed. All right. I think I'll fill in, do some of this bandolier stuff and call it good.
Jason says, yeah, totally agree. I often look at the sky and say to the missus how no one would believe it if you painted it. Mo said, aw, love that, Chase.
We gotta get you like doing more heavy labor and carpentry work, Jason, because you get awful poetic when you're tired. And in that vein, we are going to be moving soon. So if you want to, no, I'm kidding.
Well, the bandolier really elevates it because you're adding like a, I mean, just my thought, you're adding like a hard element to the soft fur.
Right, yeah, breaks it up.
Yeah, it does. It's pretty cool. It really just elevated it, I think. Mo says, this looks amazeballs. I agree, Mo.
Thanks.
And Jason said, his non-Wookiee pouches really make it chewy. It's crazy.
All right. I think I'm going to call it good. As I noodle a couple more things here. All right. So now what we'll do is we'll roll a die and see who wins the very first inked sketch on the stream. So we're gonna roll an 8-sided die. So when I tell you, you're gonna guess a number between 1 and 8, and whoever gets it first wins the sketch. So here we go. I have rolled. Guess the number between 1 and 8 to win. It's not 7, and no, it's not 1, Jason.
You can hardly blame him. That has served him
I
well
know,
as a guest
it has, yeah.
previously. It's not 3.
No, the way I was rolling last night during D&D, it was, if it wasn't 1s, it was 2s or 3s.
I guess the number between 1 and 8 will win.
I mean, technically correct, but not the right one.
It's not 2.
I think you two are the only ones guessing. Eventually somebody will hit it. It's not 4, Mo. Who's it gonna be? Come on, one of you is gonna get it.
Is that a guess, Jason?
Is it? Yeah, that's a question. It's not 6. It is 8. I'm just gonna go. It's 8.
There's quite a delay. So.
Yeah. Congratulations, Jason. Again. But yes, you win. And before I give it to you, I'll erase the pencils. Actually, I might do that before we close out the stream, just so you guys can see.
Don't panic.
Right, well, yeah, it's not going to erase the ink, but...
He said, 8? Wow, yay. Congrats, Jason. Jason says, thank you, good people. There's only horrible people here, Jason.
On this end, anyway.
I don't think it really looks any different on the screen.
Yeah, it may not. But it looks different on my end.
Yeah?
Yeah, to me, I always like getting the pencils off. Seems to make it more
polished?
stark. Yeah. And it was also another thing drilled into our heads in college. Like, clean up your work. Okay. Well, congratulations again, Jason, on the 10th stream win. Thank you, Mo. Thanks, Jason. Thanks to everybody who stopped by. And as per usual, I'll post the replay tomorrow. And we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Night.